Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace here, dropping in on you. It's a couple of my platforms that I normally don't stream this on that are here today. The Black Voice, to everybody on the Black Voice that are catching this on the stream. Normally, when I decide to put up something from the Visionetics Institute on the Black Voice, I normally simply uh, take the recorded version and edit it and upload it. But I wanted to catch anyone who may be up and available to see this live. I'm going to talk to you real briefly about 10 principles of a successful and fulfilling life. And how you define success is up to you. How you decide what is fulfilling to you is up to you. But there are some principles to living life at a level that can be perceived as successful and fulfilling. Before I move into that, I want to quickly remind you that we are in the second week of the new launch of Savage and Six. Savage and Six is the new program by request of people who wanted a shorter version of my programs. So this is a 6-week program. And so here it is, 6-week program. For those of you who are looking to make some major shifts in your life and you need to do it quickly and you need to do it with precision and confidence, uh, reach out to me. The information is in there. Let's make it happen. Now, moving on. 10 principles, and I'm just going to go and I'm going to give them to you 1 through 10. You don't have them in any order. It depends on what's going on in the day, how I move along with these. But these are 10 of the principles that I consistently operate. The first one is I am what I become. What does that mean? You don't wish your way into something you desire to be. You work your way into it. You learn your way into it. You grow your way into it. You develop into it. It has to be an intentional movement of yours to become. You are only going to become what you intentionally seek out for yourself in the way of growth, in the way of knowledge, in the way of development. You can't sit idly by and think something is simply going to happen and through osmosis or some supernatural process, you're going to become something great. Greatness is the result of process, and you've got to work that process. So I am what I become. Second of all, there's something great on the other side of that struggle. There's something great on the other side of the fear and the pain. Let me tell you, you're going to go through some things. You're going to have to be willing to move through some things. You're going to have a commitment to yourself that you're going to move through some things, that you're going to finish what you start, that you're going to persevere. You are going to have to move through it. But the beautiful thing about it is there's something great on the other side of that struggle, on the other side of that tedious process, on the other side of the fear and the pain and the frustration. There's something great. There's something rewarding. It's worth the process. Make it happen. Learn how to use those who don't believe in you, those doubters, those naysayers. Number one is make them few in between. Distance yourself from them, but when you come across them, learn how to use them as motivation. Learn how to use those people who don't believe in you as motivation. You know, one of the things I used to say a long time ago is if you want to see me do something, tell me I can't do it. If you want to see me do something, tell me that I can't do it, and then just sit back and watch me. That is how I've moved. You know, I don't need the motivation from my doubters, but I'm definitely going to take it as added motivation. My motivation, you're going to learn what my motivation is in just a minute. I'm already motivated the moment I wake up. I've got a bunch of motivation. I don't ever need to be motivated. Sometimes I need to be inspired, but I don't ever need to be motivated. My motive is extremely clear. But when they come along and tell me I can't, that's just more motivation. That's something that's inside of me that just clicks. That you what I can't let why sit back and watch me. And I've been doing that in my entire life, long before I was an adult. You tell me I can't do something, I'm going to prove you wrong. Uh, I had an 11th grade English teacher uh, who had a massive impact on my life. And she started impacting my life before she was my teacher. She actually sat in on, I think, my freshman English class for my teacher because they had some type of meeting, and she paid attention to my conversation, and she pulled me to the side and she told me that was something about me and that I needed to be careful about who I associated with. And she would always guard me. Then eventually she went to the 11th grade counselor and made sure I was in her class because I wasn't supposed to be. But she made sure I was in her class. But she told me a bunch of things. But one of the things she told me is, son, the word can't will never apply to you. Don't ever let anyone use it when addressing you and what you're capable of. Never buy into the limitations of the set for you, because you are exceptional and you have something in you that will take you places that you can't even imagine, but you can't get bogged down with the opinions of other people. And that's that. So then what's the next one? Know your why. This one is huge. A lot of times, this one finds its way to the forefront. Why is it important to know your why? Your why is your motivation. Remember, I just told you about motivation. Your why is your motivation. Your why you're doing something is your motive. It's the reason you're doing it. Now, your why has to be big enough to push you through some real tough and intense moments. I tell people, if your why isn't big enough, you're going to quit because it's going to get hard. If you're going after something worth having, if you're going after something of any value, if you're striving for greatness, I can promise you it's going to be tough. You're going to experience some setbacks. You're going to experience some delays. You're going to experience some frustration and disappointment. You're going to look up and wonder sometimes, what in the world? And then you got to consult your why. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I refuse to first and foremost disappoint the designer. See, I am a part of a design, and I believe that. And I believe that in my design is a purpose, and in that purpose has meaning and mission and assignment. And I know that my way that I think my designer, my God, the Almighty, however you want to refer to it, doesn't matter to me. But let me tell you something. You got to know that something here, that you're here for a reason. If you don't have an idea of why you're here, life will toss you all over the place. But see, what happens with me is I have the first and the largest why is I refuse to fail my design. I refuse to fail in my design and in my purpose. So I wake up every day knowing that I'm here for a reason and I'm going to walk out that purpose. Number two, I have a beautiful woman that I love dearly who needs me to be on my A game. And I refuse to sit up and be anything less than I'm capable of being. There's a quote by, I'm going to save it for Nelson Mandela, but I'm going to save it for you. I'm going to save it for you. I have it here, but I'm going to save it for you. I want to get through this, but I'm telling you, you got to know your why. Your why is what's going to push you through those dark moments. You're going to look at it and say, I can't quit. Some people you can't quit because those babies are depending on you. Some people can't quit because your wife is, or your spouse is dependent on you. Some people can't quit because ain't nobody else got your back but you, and you got somewhere to go. You got someplace to be, and you can't trust or depend on anybody else to do. Whatever your why is, it's got to be big enough to push you through. But when you know your why, nothing can stop you. Nothing can move against you. Nothing can break you. Then what's the next one? You got to understand that this is not about ease. A lot of people want some things in this life, but they don't want to go through the process. A lot of people want to live life in a certain way, whatever that is, but they're not willing to push through the process. Tell people all the time, you've probably heard me say this, that process always precedes promise. What does that mean? You're not going to get the prize before you endure and move through the process. The process is the preparation for the prize, for the promise. You've got to be willing to push through the process. The process develops you. The process strengthens you. The process matures you. The process takes you to a place that when you get the prize, you are prepared to utilize the prize. You have to be positioned and moved into place by the process. There can be no prize or promise without the process. This is not about a life of ease. Oh, here's one right here that gets a lot of people. Life isn't fair. Get that notion out of your head that just because somebody else got something, you can have it. Life isn't fair. Life isn't balanced automatically. Life is balanced through energy and effort and moving. There's just going to be a certain amount of people who don't want it and a certain amount of people who do, and it brings about the balance of the have and the have nots and all other types of balances. And what have and have not is up to you. Everybody's not about money. And even those who are about money aren't about having it for the sake of simply having it. With me, it's about being able to do the things that I want to do in this life that leave a mark. Because at the end of the day, when I transition out of this life, I take none of that stuff with me. So I better have utilized it well. See, some of it needs to be to set up my progeny, my offspring. Some of it needs to be to have left an imprint through my actions. And obviously some of it is meant for me to enjoy with my family and all of those things. But whatever drives you, you've got to understand that life ain't fair. You have to go out and happy. But what I will tell you is, while life isn't fair, God designed the universe to be unfailing in its laws and principles. What you put out will come back. If you consistently put out and plant, it may not come back when you want it. That's the thing that you got to understand. See, I tell people all the time, you're planting a seed of hope, a seed of a future vision, a seed of your destiny. But what you got to understand is, the greater expectation of the seed you plant, the longer the gestation period. Let me explain to what I'm talking about. So you can plant a rose seed and you can plant an acorn. An acorn will produce an oak tree and a rose seed will produce a rose. Now, what you can get is, you're going to get a beautiful rose and you're going to get it relatively quick, all things considered. It's going to come out and it's going to blossom and it's going to bloom, and then it's going to die, and you're going to have to wait again for the next blossom. On the other hand, it's going to take some years for that acorn to go through the gestation process of being underneath the ground and coming up. But what happens is, when it finally comes into the fullness of what it was meant to be, it lasts for centuries, because it was meant to be something withstanding, or something with longevity. Sometimes what you're wanting is not going to happen immediately. You're going to have to plant the seed. You're going to have to nurture it. You're going to have to water it. You're going to have to protect it and defend it against doubt, defend it against negativity, defend it against toxicity. You're going to have to every day visit it and reassure yourself that what you planted will manifest and will at some point come to a point where you reap the harvest. But life ain't fair. Coach your mind with gratitude. I start every day with gratitude. Before I get out of the bed, I find at least 3 things to be grateful for. You heard me say this a bunch of times. The first thing is always that woman laying next to me. I look over to my left as I lay on my back, and I see her take her first breath that I see. Well, obviously she's been taking breaths the whole time, but I wait to see her breathe and know she's still with me. And I say, thank you. And I'm grateful for that. Not just having her, but for the responsibility of covering her, for the responsibility of being something she needs me to be so that she can be the best version of herself. I like the responsibility. I don't shy away from responsibility. I don't shy away from accountability. I'm a long way from perfect. There are some things I'm still striving to be, some things I'm still striving to become. Remember, I am what I become. I'm still striving to become some things. But the one thing is, I love taking on the accountability and the responsibility of doing so. I don't shy away from it. But I wake up with gratitude. Gratitude is the gateway to abundance. You cannot achieve abundance from a place of misery. That's why a lot of people are locked out, because you constantly focus on what you don't have. You constantly focus on what's not right. You constantly focus. You complain all the time. You close the gate to receive the things you want because you've lowered your frequency and your vibration. You've taken yourself out of alignment with all of the things that you want because they're on a higher level. They're on a higher frequency. They're on a higher vibration. You can't even communicate with God down there that low with all that complaining and whining and finger pointing and everything else. That's not where the divine operates. You've got to be able to get out of that. You got to find a reason to be grateful. And I'm telling you, if you're breathing, I can tell you there's a reason to be thankful. There's a reason to be grateful, because if you're breathing, you're still in the fight. If I don't care if you ain't got nothing, you don't think you've got nothing you want. If you're still breathing, there's still an opportunity to get it. That's all you ever should want. I still have an opportunity. As long as I've got an opportunity, I'm still making things happen. Number 8, never settle. Oh man, how many people are settling? And now for that quote that I was talking about with Nelson Mandela. I may have to paraphrase him, but he said that there's no passion in settling. I think that's what it is. No, I take that back. It's no passion in playing small, in settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living. Watch that again. There's no passion in playing small, in settling for a life less than the one you're capable of living. But I watch so many people do it. They're not ready for the fight. They accept what's being pushed on them instead of standing up and fighting for what they know they need, for what they know they want, for what they know is possible. No, the height of your life, the height of your performance doesn't come with ease. You don't become elite at anything by coasting. You have to invest yourself. You don't become an elite athlete by coasting. You don't become the best in your field in any industry by coasting. You develop a mindset that you're going to grind and you're going to be the best. While other people are playing, you're working. While other people are joking around, you're reading. While other people, and I'm not saying don't have fun, but I'm saying have a map. You got to know what the rest of the world is doing. If I'm going to be at the top of my industry, I got to know what the people in my industry are doing, how much of it they're doing, how many books they read a month, how many courses they're taking, all these different things. Because if I'm going to be one of the best people in my industry, I can't be outworked in my industry. Okay, next, stop embracing your limitations. That's number 9. Stop embracing your limitations. What does that mean? The only limits, the truth is, the only limits you have in this life are the ones you accept with your mind. Your mind is the most powerful and forceful gift you have. Your mind is the one that will determine whether you win or lose in this life, how you perceive the world through your mind, how you look at challenges through your mind, how you determine what can and cannot be done in your life is going to determine the outcome of your life. And you've got to stop embracing the limitations that are a part of paradigms that came early in life or that were pushed upon you by someone with influence. You need to understand, if I desire it and it's of good consequence, I can have it. The very idea that I can conceive it in my mind is God's evidence that it's possible. The fact that it can be conceived within my mind means that I can do it. Does it mean it's going to come easy? No, but it means I can do it. And number 10, my battle cry. You're built for the battle. Man, if I could tell you how many times I looked at myself in the mirror in some of the most trying times of my life and simply said, you're built for this. You are built for this. I mean, I've gone through some times that you can't even possibly imagine. I've had some unbelievable highs, but I've been to the bottom. I've been rock bottom. But even at rock bottom, I had a smile on my face. You know why? Because I was still breathing. And if I'm still breathing, what? I'm still in the fight. And if I'm still in the fight, I plan on winning. I don't care where I'm at right now. If life hasn't taken me out, I still got something to give. I still got something to have. Still got something to share. So I look at myself and I say, hey, I don't even know how I'm coming out of it, but I'm coming out of it. Rick, you're built for this. That is immensely important, that you understand that you're built for the battle, that there's nothing you're going to face that you cannot overcome, but you have to be willing to stay in the fight. You have to be willing not to settle. You have to be willing to move beyond these preset limitations that other people have put around you based on how they live their lives. Shake yourself loose from the shackles of limitations and decide that you're going to raise the level of your living to achieve things people thought were impossible. You got to understand, everything that was done for the first time was done by somebody that people didn't believe in. Can you imagine? Just imagine. Can you imagine sitting around and listening to Orville and Wilbur Wright talk about making a machine that could fly? Not only fly, but you could put people in it and it could fly you places. And you know, we just fresh off into the automobile and you're talking about flying? Really? You get how many people looking at them and talking about how crazy they are, but now you hop on planes and go places consistently all the time and never give it a second thought. But somebody had to do it first when it wasn't believed. Do you know that before 1954, nobody had ever run the mile in under 4 minutes? Do you know that not only had no one run the mile in under 4 minutes, that was literally a standing belief that if anybody ever ran the mile in 4 minutes, that they wouldn't live to celebrate it because their heart would explode? That was the belief. The belief was it couldn't be done, and if you did do it, you would die. And then that came Roger Bannister. And Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute barrier and ran the mile under 4 minutes. And a couple of things that came out of that when I studied Roger, it's a couple of things that came out of that. The first thing that I found out was that Roger's advancement in his running wasn't about his training, it was about his mentality. When they asked him, how did he do it? How did he train? He said, I simply ran it 1,000 times in my mind. So this time when I stepped on the track, I already believed I had done it before. But you know why that's possible? Because the brain and the mind does not have the ability to distinguish between what's being imagined and what's real. If you can imagine it and you can imagine it consistently enough and clear enough, you'll tell yourself you've already done it. And once you've done it once, it's the automatic assumption that I can do it again. And so he does it. But here's the crazy thing about it. After he runs the mile under 4 minutes, in the next 2 years, over 200 some other people do the same thing. So what? He killed the lie of the limitation. Once people believed it could be done, people start doing it. I always sit up and I wonder when I watch it. Now you got kids who run the mile. Kids in high school run the mile in under 3 minutes. But I remember looking at it and going, man, I wonder how many people who were actually physically capable of running the mile under 40 minutes long before he did, but then were pacing themselves and watching the watch and realizing they were about to run it under 4 minutes and said, man, I'm going to die if I run under 4 minutes, and actually backed off, whether consciously or subconsciously, because of the fear of dying by excelling. It won't kill you. It'll definitely make you stronger. So at the end of the day, you got to understand you're built for it. You got to understand that you can walk out in it, but you got to challenge yourself. You can no longer be content with where you're at. There ought to be a certain level of guilt about living life beneath the level of your design. There ought to be a certain level of guilt that's saying, I'm not just failing God, I'm failing myself. I owe myself more. I owe God more. I owe my family more. The fact is, you owe the world because you were put here to be an example of what's possible. And yet you're meandering through the maze of mediocrity because it takes commitment and work to get where you're supposed to be. It's time to challenge yourself to rise above it. It's time to challenge yourself to get outside of those things that other people have set in front of you and told you this is your lot in life. Let me explain something to you, people. Poverty is not your lot in life. I don't care who you are, where you come from, what you were born into. Suffering is not your lot in life. Pain is inevitable. You can't get around it, but suffering is a choice. Suffering is the decision to identify with a painful moment so much that you refuse to let it go. You refuse to walk out of it. You refuse to build up and move on. You just sunk into it. You got people 20 years past that divorce still talking about how much they suffered in it. You may have suffered in it, but you're not in it anymore. The moment you walked out of it, you should have walked out of it walking into something greater, not sitting up and looking back, but you decided to make your life about misery and suffering because you wanted to focus on what was behind you instead of what is in front of you. As long as you're focusing on all that negative stuff behind you, you will have a predictable future of mediocrity. You're going to have to determine in yourself that there's something greater and that you can tap into it and that you can rise up and that you can live it and that there are principles in place that guarantee it. That's the challenge that I'm walk into greatness. Walk into greatness. On that note, I'm gonna get ready to get it. As I always say, I live my life on full each and every day. So when I leave this place, I'm sure I'll die on E, leaving nothing behind, no potential untapped, no work undone. My challenge for you to do the same thing. And don't forget, for those of you who may be looking to take your life to the next level and you want to do it in a precise and specified and deliberate way, we just launched last week Savage in Six. This was actually by request. A lot of people came to me and said, hey, look, I can't do 12 weeks. I can't do 26 weeks. I can't do 52 weeks. You ain't got nothing smaller. So here we are, Savage in Six. If you want to change your life, go look in the box, click the link. Let's hook up. Let's make it happen. Whatever you do, don't settle. On that note, I'm out of here. All of you, go out there and make this day a good day. It's up to you. I'm out.